Welcome to the premiere match of the World Battle League, with our exhibition match featuring two trainers who are well acquainted with one another after their battle years ago on Mount Silver. Now, with their best possible teams, it's time for the rematch. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, as we have many battles yet to come. Alright, here we go. One of the most legendary matchups you could possibly imagine as the Battle Legend Red faces off against Trainer Ethan, both having been champions of the Indigo Plateau. Red starting off with his Machamp as his lead, whereas Ethan is going in with the Ambipom. Now, at the outset, it looks like he has the disadvantage, but Ambipom does have Fake Out, which is going to do a massive amount of damage, actually, thanks to Technician, and Machamp is going to flinch and be unable to move, so a big play there. Oh, and then Ethan going with the U-turn to get the pivoting, too. What a play from Ethan. Now he can switch in anything he wants to be able to handle whatever Machamp is going to throw at him, which I can assume it might have been the Dynamic Punch, given that Ambipom is normal type, and in comes the Togekiss, yes, to tank the Dynamic Punch. However, that is going to confuse the Togekiss right off the bat, making it a little bit scary if Machamp does have something like the Stone Edge. That could do a lot of damage, but we do see the leftovers on the Togekiss helping it out just a little bit, although Red actually going for the switch here, perhaps not wanting to tank something like a Dazzling Gleam or an Air Slash. Togekiss, after all, making it through the confusion would be terrifying. And in comes the Snorlax, a very bulky choice to handle this Togekiss. Oh, look at that special defense, just off the charts, as Togekiss hardly able to do any damage at all. And it turns out both Pokemon do have the leftovers, so this is a bulky yet offensively capable matchup, although Togekiss going in with the switch here, switching into Tangrowth. I suppose Ethan saw an opportunity to get rid of that confusion, and now the Snorlax going for Curse. That is a huge play there from Red, perhaps predicting the switch and getting to raise his defense and attack at the cost of his speed, which Snorlax doesn't really have much of anyway, although against something like Tangrowth, which Ethan did just send in, it could have actually been useful. And now we have a physical wall versus a special wall, but whoa, Tangrowth going for the Sleep Powder, actually putting the Snorlax to sleep, as is characteristic of it. And now Red is all of a sudden in a bind because he does have a Pokemon that is quite powered up on the field, but with it being asleep, there's not much he can do. And I do wonder if the Tangrowth has something like Leech Seed and it can start setting up here, but no, it's going to go for the offensive move right away, going in with this. Ooh, that did not do much at all, the Seed Bomb. Oh, and Snorlax now going for the Fire Punch. It has super effective Fire Punch on Tangrowth, and that does a surprisingly small amount of damage given that it is super effective. That Tangrowth is physically bulky beyond belief. Now Tangrowth going for the Sleep Powder again. Now here's where that Curse actually comes into play, is Snorlax does get outsped by something as slow as Tangrowth, which is evidently not playing in Red's favor at all, as he gets put to sleep yet again, is going to get some leftovers recovery. The only thing is on Ethan's side here is that Tangrowth is not getting much damage off at all, especially considering the leftovers, so he is going to switch out into the Politoed. Now this is an interesting switch in, because Snorlax, after all, is a special defender, and Politoed is typically known as a special attacker, so we're really going to have to see what it is that Ethan plans to do here. Whoa, look at that coverage coming in with the Focus Blast. That is super effective. Let's see how much it does. That is a good amount of damage given that it has no stab at all, but Snorlax now waking up and going for the Body Slam on Politoed. Oh, doing just about half. I think it was slightly less than half damage from the Body Slam. Now Snorlax awoken and is quite a threat with those boosts, but whoa, Politoed coming in with the Toxic now, putting that Snorlax on a timer. Of course, the damage is incrementally worse and worse every turn. That was a really good play from Ethan. I was wondering what this Politoed would do, but no, it doesn't survive the second Body Slam. It looked like it might have, perhaps Snorlax getting a little bit of a high roll there, but now we are going to see that toxic damage start to wear down on Snorlax, as we see what Ethan's going to send in. It's going to be the Ambipom. Now Ambipom is quite physically capable and actually is a good switch with the Fake Out, but Red seeing it happen and going in with the Arcanine, that might have the Intimidate. That would be a brilliant play. Yes, it does. The Intimidate lowering Ambipom's attack right off the bat, and of course the flinch isn't going to happen, but he does get some free damage off on Arcanine, Ethan that is. And now now Ethan performing a switch of his own. What's he going to go into? Oh, the legendary Lugia is on the field out of nowhere. Oh, predicting the close combat, which would have absolutely wrecked the Ambipom, to be fair. But Lugia absolutely eating that up, taking a total of 8 HP damage from that. And there goes the leftovers. I think that is 0 damage from a close combat from an Arcanine. That is absolutely nuts. Now Red hopefully isn't panicking too much and switching into the Snorlax now. I do wonder how he plans to deal with this, as in comes the Aeroblast from the Lugia. And that actually didn't do too much. Snorlax is quite a bulky boy after all, with the leftovers bringing it just above half. But now, of course, the Toxic coming back into play. It's, oh, this is not looking too good as Lugia goes for another Aeroblast on it. And is down to a quarter damage, but does get a Body Slam off. And Lugia is also especially bulky, but is bulky all around. And oh, there's the Paralysis. Oh, wow, that is a huge, huge paralysis from the Snorlax with the Body Slam. Now Lugia is crippled and, of course, does not have an item to help with that. It only has the leftovers for a bit of recovery every turn, but nothing to help with status. Oh, that is huge. Oh, and Lugia now paralyzed on this turn. So Snorlax getting off a free Body Slam. Oh man, Red perhaps hoping for that paralysis, and boy did he ever get it, as Lugia is now kind of crippled here, as Snorlax getting one more turn of leftovers recovery before the Toxic. Let's see how much this does. It should bring it into the red. Yes, just on a sliver there. The Snorlax surviving. And the Lugia does outspeed through the paralysis and makes it through to take down Snorlax with the Psychic. Perhaps maybe anticipating that Red might have switched and switching the move up there a little bit just in case he was able to predict that Aeroblast again. But now Red switching into his Arcanine. Now Arcanine does actually have a coverage move that he could use here, the Wild Charge. Let's see what Ethan decides to do. There's nothing he can really switch in here. No, he's going to get hit by the Wild Charge. Oh, and that does huge damage on the Lugia, bringing it below half. Arcanine is getting recoil damage and the Life Orb damage too. Oh, and Lugia getting through for the Aeroblast again. That's going to take down Arcanine too. Oh my, this Lugia, even while paralyzed, proving to be a big challenge for Red. Let's see how he wants to meet it, as Lugia is starting to get on low health, and in comes the Blastoise. Blastoise might have some sort of ice coverage here, it looks like. And yes, Ethan's gonna stay in, realizing he doesn't want to take that on any other Pokemon, especially, like, given his Typhlosion, you know, he could switch it into an Ice Beam, but then what? Blastoise is way too bulky, way too powerful with its water moves too, and actually does tank that Aeroblast quite well, especially with leftovers recovery, and the Lugia is getting ever closer to getting KO'd. I think Ethan is kind of trapped here. Yes, he is, as the Blastoise coming in with the Ice Beam from Red, and that should be it. Yes, the legendary Lugia has been downed. Wow, what a huge amount of damage it did though, as Red now has to find a way to recover from that and try to find a way to actually turn this battle around, as in comes the troublesome Ambipom. This thing has been stirring up all sorts of trouble, coming in with the Fake Out again, that Technician boosted Fake Out, doing a surprising amount of damage on that Blastoise and flinching it too. Blastoise will get some recovery, but now Ambipom has free reign to hit it again, because this thing is very speedy, and going with the return, that is a 102 power stab move, doing a good amount of damage there. But the Blastoise getting to actually respawn here with the Scald. Oh, and the Ambipom goes down to it. Ambipom getting taken down by Blastoise's sheer bulk and power. But looking at the remainder of Ethan's team, I can see why he doesn't really have a good way to counter this. Even the Tangrowth, which you'd imagine would be a perfect counter to Blastoise, is quite affected by Ice Beam, but Red deciding he's too low health and he's going to switch out into Venusaur. A good play there. Venusaur does counter Tangrowth really hard, and I'm sure we're about to see that here as the C-Bomb does absolutely nothing. Oh man, Venusaur eating that up and getting recovery almost to full health too. Oh, this is a tricky situation for Ethan, but he does have a good switch. Yes, the Typhlosion, a good choice from him. Even though Venusaur is going to get off a stab sludge bomb on him, that should do a good amount of damage. Yes, almost to half. No poison though, so he could, in theory, take another one of those if he does want to. But no, Red is going to switch out, does not want to lose Venusaur. Well, I shouldn't say this early in the match, but Venusaur could be useful later on. As Red switching into the Charizard of all things, we have got a starter versus starter battle. The two fire starters, actually. And Charizard getting hit for not much there, and Red is deciding, you know what? It makes sense. He's not Mega Evolving his Charizard. That's a good call. Because after all, Charizard Y does set the sun up, which would just merely power him up. And oh, Typhlosion surviving the Air Slash on just a sliver, so it does get to attack again. This looks like it's a close range. Oh, Typhlosion taking down the Charizard with a flamethrower. Holy, Ethan realizing he has nothing left to battle that Charizard with, really. The only thing being, Red did not Mega Evolve, which perhaps he was anticipating. But no, and in comes the hidden power. Whoa! Blastoise surviving on just a sliver. Might have been hidden power electric or grass or something, and getting to respawn to take down the Typhlosion with Scald. Oh my word! That's gotta be 1 HP before this leftovers. So we have 2 clutch survivals from either player here. And in comes the Togekiss. Togekiss is a very big threat late game for Red, actually. Going for the Dazzling Gleam off the bat, outspeeding the Blastoise and taking it down with ease. And now, I believe, Red only has his Machamp and his Venusaur left, which is actually quite troublesome when you're looking at something like a Togekiss, because never mind the fairy typing, but the flying typing alone takes care of both of them. This is dangerous. Oh, but the Machamp having the priority bullet punch, that is going to be super effective. Steel against fairy and doing just over half with a critical hit. Are you kidding me? Right at the end, we cannot afford that as Machamp gets taken down by the super effective Dazzling Gleam. Oh man, this is a big play from Ethan, as his leftovers are going to bring him above half, and in comes Red's Venusaur, his final Pokemon on the team. Is it going to be able to do this? Togekiss going for the air. Whoa! It missed! Oh no! Venusaur going with the Sludge Bomb, the super effective stab Sludge Bomb to take down the Togekiss after it missed Air Slash. Oh man! That's one of the drawbacks of having a move that has 95% accuracy. It doesn't hit all the time. As Venusaur against Tangrowth now, the 2 grass types. Sludge Bomb connects and boom! That's it! The Tangrowth goes down! Red coming up with an absolutely clutch comeback at the end to somehow pull the battle off. I have no idea how that just happened. The Togekiss did miss the Air Slash. Venusaur might have survived it, but the only problem is Serene Grace flinching is a possibility. I think Ethan only wins there if the flinch did happen, so perhaps the miss didn't change the outcome of the battle, but both players playing like the absolute legends they are, and what an exhibition match to kick off the WBL.